Good evening, everybody. I hope you've had a good week, whatever you have been doing. I hope you've managed to enjoy some of the sunshine without, obviously, which can be difficult. Um, we, sorry, just having to get the sound right on this. There we go. That's better. I could hear myself before. So, yes, this evening we're just going to run through some acupuncture points and do some acupressure on them to try and relieve some stress and anxiety. I think at this point, people seem to either be kind of getting into the flow of kind of the new normal or kind of getting hit by the reality of kind of what's going on, or a mixture of the two. So tonight is just about bringing a lot of balance back to the body, trying to just calm the body down, and help us to just stop having that kind of fleeting emotions and kind of like mood swings that a lot of people keep kind of talking to me about experiencing. So if you've been here before, you'll kind of know how this works. Just as a reminder for everybody, um, the pressure we apply, we do in 3 different stages. We start with just holding pressure on the point. You can use your finger or your thumb, however's comfortable for you. Then I'll say small circles, and we're just moving our finger in small circles on that point. And then I'll say big circles, and we just move in larger circles on that point. So it's each of those 3, and I'll tell you when to change. And then we also have the breath to think about. Again, if you've done this before, this is something you'll be starting to get used to, how we breathe during these sessions. The most important thing about the breath is that the out breath is longer than the in. So for me, what's comfortable is breathing in for 4 and out for 7. So try that now, breathing in for 4 and out for 7, and see how that feels. It should feel comfortable. Everybody's lung capacity is different. So you might want to change that breath to suit you better. All that's important is that the out breath is longer than the in. This is a great way, with just the breath, getting the body to come out of the fight or flight state and into our relaxation mode, which is obviously where we want to be. And we're actually affecting our central nervous system with this breath. So it's super important and really powerful. And this is something that you can also take away with you. You don't just have to do that tonight when you do these sessions. That's something you can generally use when you're feeling anxious or stressed. Remember this breath, it's incredibly useful. Okay, so I think we are ready to go. Again, we'll be doing points all the way from top of the head down to the bottom of our feet. So make sure you're sitting somewhere comfortable and have got comfy clothes on. Okay, so starting with a point that we always start with, which is do 20, which is right on the top of the head. So the easiest way to find this point is to imagine you're being picked up by your ears. Where would that be? If someone was to pick you up by your ears, that's where your fingers would sit if someone was to lift you. From there, run over the top till your fingers meet on the top of your head, making sure you're on the midline, so coming from between the eyes. Back, that's where we want to be. And apply pressure. And now think about that breath. So breathing in and then out for longer than we breathe in. And now add in small circles. So this point is all about bringing clear energy up to the brain and nourishing it. So it's a really great way to start to refresh the mind, move any kind of turgid negative energy, and bring clean, clear energy up. And big circles. This is also a really good point for concentration. And kind of when we get that head fog where we can't really focus and everything's a bit cloudy, this is a great point for that. Okay, next one, we're coming in between the eyes, just here, in between the eyebrows, and apply pressure there. And again, bringing the focus back onto the breath. Making sure that the out breath is longer than the in. And now small circles. So this is one of my favourite points, and if you're a patient of mine, you've almost definitely had this needled. It's amazing at just calming the mind and releasing a lot of tension from across the forehead and the top of the head. And big circles. I always find once you get to big circles on this point, it feels really good. You can kind of feel all the tension that's being released with this point. Great. Now the next one, what we're going to do is we're going to be behind the ear. So the easiest way to find this point is if you place your finger behind your ear and behind your earlobe, you should feel a bony protrusion just behind it. It's slightly rounded, that means you can either roll forward towards the ear, going even closer to the earlobe, or you can roll back away from the ear, falling off of that bony protrusion into a dip. That's where we want to be, in that dip there. So again, on the other side, place your finger behind your ear, feel for that bony protrusion there, and roll away from the ear, back, and you'll fall off of the bone and into a depression. That's where we want to be. And apply that pressure and bringing the focus back onto the breath. Remembering that the only thing that's important with that breath is that the out breath is longer than the in. And small circles. This point, the name of this point translates to peaceful sleep. So it's one of the principal points that we use for sleep. So if you are struggling with sleep at the moment, remember this point. This is something you can really easily do when in bed. And big circles. Okay, so that's all of the points on the head. Now we're going to come down onto the chest. The first one we're going to do is just on the outer edge of the chest. So the easiest way to find this point is to find the highest point of your armpit crease. So where that highest point of the crease is, and you're going to move in about a centimetre. I find this easiest to do with your thumb. So think that's the highest point of the crease, move in about a centimetre, and that's where the point is. And do the same on the other side, here, and in about a centimetre. Now you can also have a feel around here. It will probably feel quite tender somewhere. Find that really tender spot and apply pressure there. And once you've found that, bring the focus back to the breath. And small circles. So this is an amazing point to start trying to unbind the chest and move some of the tension that will have built up when we're stressed and anxious across this area. And this is happening both in terms of the Chinese theory behind the point, but also where this point is located is actually releasing the fascia, the muscular tissue of the pectoral muscles that sit here. So it's having its effect in two different ways. And big circles. This point can also be really good to help get control over the breath if you are hyperventilating or feeling very panicked. Again, this is one you can remember and use to make the breath come back to its rest state. Okay, the next point on the chest is actually on the midline. So we're staying in the middle, it's just one point, and we're about in line with the nipple. This is slightly more difficult to find on women than on men, but it's just roughly in line with the nipple and on that midline. And apply that pressure and bring the attention back to the breath. So we're breathing out for longer than we breathe in. and small circles. So this is what we see in Chinese medicine as the main point of the heart on the front of the body. So here we have direct access to the energy of the heart with this point. So it's really powerful at helping nourish the heart and also calming the mind. And big circles. And again, very good at starting to lower the energy. When we get anxious, our energy rises. We can get quite panicked, our shoulders become tight, all the energy moves up. And what we want to do to counteract that is try and bring all the energy lower. And this point works really well at descending the energy and pushing it downwards. Okay, now onto the arm. We're going to do one side at a time. And the easiest way to find this first point is to place your thumb into your armpit and 3 fingers resting on your arm, and the lower border of your 3rd finger is where the point is. So if we take our little finger, this line where the little finger would sit is where the point is. So it's about here. And this point sits in between 2 muscles. So you should be able, if you keep the arm very relaxed and wiggle your finger around here, you should feel that you can actually fall into a dip. So if you come around onto the side, that's very muscular. Come around onto the back, that's very muscular. There's an in-between, and that's where we want to sit. And that's 3 fingers below the armpit crease. That's where we want to be. So hold that pressure and bring the attention back to the breath. And small circles. So this point is especially around helping us with the emotions of sadness and with weeping, and also with grief, this one. And in Chinese medicine, we make a very important point of saying grief is just the emotion of sadness with loss. It doesn't have to mean death. It's just sadness when associated with the loss of something. So at the moment, we could be experiencing that for the loss of our normal lives and our normal routines. And big circles. Okay, and onto the other side, finding it in exactly the same way. So place your thumb into your armpit and go 3 fingers below that line, and you're sitting in between 2 muscles. So have a wiggle around. You should feel that you fall into a dip and apply pressure there. and bring the attention back to the breath. This point is actually very important in terms of emotional well-being. And in the ancient texts, it's spoken about having a very strong link with the part of our mind and the part of our soul that's responsible for how we interact with other people. And small circles. And therefore, by the fact that our human interactions are being limited at the moment, this is something that could really need nourishing. Don't forget, we're very social creatures. We're supposed to have those interactions. And so it's very normal that without those, we're finding more of an imbalance. And big circles. Okay, now we're moving further down towards the wrist, and we're going to be looking at this point just on the edge here. So this point lies on the wrist crease, and it's on the side near our little finger. So all we need to do is, if you bend the arm back slightly, you should be able to feel a little round bone just on the corner here. Once you've found that, just roll into the wrist crease, and you should fall into a gap. If you do this with your arm lying flat, it's easiest to feel. So find that round bone on the corner and roll in. And again, bring the attention back to the breath. And small circles. So this point is called Shen Men, which translates as spirit gate. And we see this point as really an essential point in treating any emotional disorder, but also just for calming the mind. And big circles. Okay, and switch to the other side. So again, finding that corner bone, the round one, and then rolling in, sitting on the wrist crease in a little dip away from that bone. Again, with the arm flat is easiest to find this one. Apply pressure, and again, we're bringing the attention back to the breath. Jenny saying she loves Shen Men there. And that's true for a lot of patients. They really love this point, both needling it and then using it as an acupressure point on themselves too. And small circles. And big circles. Okay, so now we're going to be coming on to some points on the legs and on the feet. And so I'm going to move the camera slightly just to make it easier for you guys to see, but it will obviously might mean that the top of my head is chopped off. I also won't be necessarily sitting in the most comfortable position. For each point, just move around, find yourself somewhere to sit that's really comfortable, that still allows you to access the point. Okay, so we're going to start again. We're going to be doing one side at a time. All you need to do for this point is find this bone on the outside, on the inside of our ankle, and we're going to come 3 fingers above that bone. And so this is the line that we're sitting on. This point, we want to be again in a bit of a dip. So we're not here where it's very much on bone. And if you come around the back, it's very fleshy. We want to find where the edge of that bone is, which is usually about here. Okay, and apply pressure. And bring the attention back to the breath. So this point is considered the meeting place of 3 different channels on the leg. And therefore this point is really powerful and has a lot of influence over a lot of different areas of the body. One of its really amazing effects is calming the mind. And big circles. And one of the things I love the most about this point is the way in which it calms the mind is by nourishing, and specifically nourishing blood. Okay, that's great. Now let's move to the other side. So I'll swivel round again for you. So we're finding the bone on the inside of our ankle, and we're coming 3 fingers above, and we're finding the edge of that bone where we fall into a dip and apply pressure. And focus on the breath. and small circles. And big circles. And this is another great point for lowering the energy again. It's really gently pulling the energy down and lowering our anxiety. Okay, now the next point, you're going to do both feet at the same time. We're coming to the top of the feet. Just bend this again. And what we're doing here is we're coming in between our big toe and our second toe. So in between here, where this gap is, you're now just going to pull back between the two bones until you will naturally want to stop. So if you just apply pressure and pull back, it'll suddenly become more difficult to slide as you get to about here. So I've only moved about 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres. That's where we want to be. So hold that there and bring the attention back to the breath. So making sure that that out breath is longer than the in. And small circles. So this point is all about bringing moving energy everywhere in the body. So limiting stagnation of energy, which is probably happening to a lot of us at the moment, simply because we're not moving as much. We're not commuting to work, we're not walking to the park, we're not going to the pubs, we're not up and moving. So it's more easy for energy within the body to stagnate. And big circles. And this is quite a good point for frustration and anger, which is something I think a lot of us are starting to feel as this period progresses. I think the irritation is growing, and so this is a lovely point to use for that. Okay, now coming to a point on the balls of our feet. So the easiest way to find this is, you can already sort of see it just from me relaxing my foot. Come below the balls of your feet in about the middle of your foot. And if you curl your toes in, you'll see this dip naturally form. That's where the point is. The other way to find it is simply place your hand on top of your foot with your thumb coming and rolling over onto the sole of your foot. And what you'll find is you naturally grab that point. It's very instinctive to hold our feet like this. And again, we're going to do this on both sides, so sitting however's comfortable. You could have your feet crossed at this point, whatever's comfy for you to hold both of those points. And for this one, we're now not going to do any small circles or big circles. We're just holding this point for a few minutes. So bring the attention back to the breath, making sure that that out breath is longer than the in. And allowing the point to ground us. This point is the lowest on the body. And in Chinese medicine, we see this point as not only a point that keeps us physically moving, but also emotionally. It's also the point that grounds and connects us to the earth. And therefore, it can be really great to use when we're in kind of uncertain times where we might be feeling less safe and less secure than normal. So we're just going to hold this point for one more minute. Really focus on that breath. Okay. Thank you, everybody who has joined this evening's class. Hopefully, you're now feeling really relaxed. If you're able to, I'd suggest now turn off screens and just try and get into bed, read a book, and hopefully you'll have a really peaceful night's sleep. These are all being uploaded onto my YouTube channel, and therefore if you want to repeat any of these from you can do so whenever you fancy. This one will be up in a couple of days' time, but there's already 2 up there. So if you are looking for something else, you're wanting to repeat these classes, that is completely possible. So just have a look at that. And I'm also doing a lot on Instagram at the moment. So if you want to go and kind of see more of what I'm up to, then head over there. I'm just at a_d_acupuncture. And if you have any questions or would like any support or advice, then please do not hesitate to get in contact with me. Good night, everybody.